Welcome both. Well, Deemah, if your organization didn't exist, we would all say it should exist. This is about prosperity. It's about digital transformation for your member organizations. Just give us a glimpse of who those members are.
Oh, definitely. Well, these are...
I want to make absolutely sure we can hear you. We may just have to wait. If you carry on, can you say? Okay. Okay, don't worry, we'll say it. Christoph, just remind us of the footprint. Roughly how many colleagues around the world?
34,000.
34,000 in roughly how many cities and countries?
In 103 offices in 60 countries.
Okay, so we've got two global leaders here. Deemah, your member.
Well, we represent, as of now, 16 like-minded nations from Asia, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, representing more than 800 million in population, with 75% under the age of 30.
Amazing. So thank you both for being with us. Deemah, let's start with you. A big question on the minds of some of those nations is, how do they not get left behind? So if we're thinking about closing that impact gap, what does that mean to you?
Well, that's a question that keeps us up at night, especially in DCO. And if we look at digital economy right now, last year alone, 16% of the overall global GDP was digital economy. But if we look at that percentage, it was only a handful of countries that represented that percentage. And that gets you thinking, who is participating in the R&D, also expenses? We see only 100 firms from the US, from China, that is contributing to AI R&D. So therefore, we see not only are we struggling with a digital gap, but now that gap is increasing. And we're looking at an AI gap, where not only we are suffering from infrastructure and imbalance when it comes to computing power or the right connectivity or the right reforms, but also skilled talents. And this is where we're looking at how can these countries flourish and prosper in that digital economy if they don't create their local content.
Right. So it is about connecting. It's about cooperation, learning from each other. Christoph, you and colleagues have the ear of leaders, not just in the private sector, but across sectors. What are they telling you? What's working, and where are the real problems that need solving?
Well, it's a very interesting period in the kind of S-curve of AI adoption at this point in the corporate world, and also in ministries and government bodies. We just surveyed 1,800 leaders, top executives across 19 countries. 75% of them say that AI is one of their top priorities. Only 25% of them say that they are meeting their impact and financial objectives. And then you double click on that and you ask why. And the answer is overwhelmingly that technology is not the constraining factor, but that the human part of your organization is constraining it. How do people actually embrace the technology? It's a question of skills, it's a question of incentives, processes, organization, culture, leadership. That is the reality at this point in time, and I think that's what we all collectively need to overcome.
Right, so that's the thread we should pull on then, right. So Deemah, what's your sense of that? Because we can talk about technological readiness, but it's actually human readiness. That's what Christoph is saying. So talk to us about the fundamentals of how you see us preparing our workforces, and you're learning from your members all the time on this.
Well, I think the first thing is that we have to look at technology as a tool at the end of the day. So it's not enough just investing in the technology itself. We should be investing in the human capital that will utilize that technology and will build innovations on top of these technologies. And therefore, if we really want to look at digital sovereignty or to look at digital resilience of any nation, we have to look at their human capital that will create and generate these innovations for them to be self-sufficient. So therefore, it's not also, I would like to add, it's not also just upskilling them, but providing them with the right policies and regulations that will enable them to prosper and innovate and serve the country in the right way.
So here is a knotty challenge for you both then, because Christoph, 99% of organizations, certainly companies in the UK, for example, are small, medium-sized. Let's talk about much larger organizations, because these principles are sound. How do we do it at scale? How do we upskill with potentially hundreds of thousands or millions involved?
Well, I think, as always in life, when you try to change what a large number of people do, you have to come at it from different angles. I think, especially now when it comes to AI, there is what I would call the playfulness angle. You want people to experiment. You want, in our case, the 24-year-old college graduate who just joined us to play and bring all the use that they had of the technology in their education days into BCG. And they do that with incredible passion and incredible drive. But then, at some point, you need to take it from the individual examples to 34,000 people.
Right.
That means you need to then, as I said before, upskill and train, but you also need to have the leaders in place who are willing to encourage the use. There is a top-down responsibility to embrace technology and encourage your team to embrace technology and make good use of it. I think that is something that's widely underestimated. So I think educating the executives, educating middle management is fundamentally important for corporations. It's also fundamentally important, I think, in the public sector and in the social sector. I think there's a lot to be done.
And Christoph and Deemah as well. Presumably, we need safe, inclusive spaces where we can have honest conversations about how it's going, what's not working. We're not always going to be mic in hand on a public stage. I mean, how do you see that challenge? Because if we miss that chapter, we haven't really learned anything. Christoph.
Well, look, as a leader, you can always play the mix between encouraging positive outcomes, but also not rewarding negative outcomes, so penalizing to some extent.
Yeah.
I think in this case, you need to lead with positive example, positive reinforcement.
Yes.
Demonstrating that you use it yourself.
Yes.
Also showing vulnerability and the reality of how you do it yourself. And the things that work and sometimes the things that fail. And
right.
I do think the most advanced organizations have a culture where from the CEO or the president down to the entry-level people who joined, to the day-to-day workforce out in the field, there is a common acceptance. We do this, we are excited about the progress, and we learn from our mistakes.
Deemah, it's a powerful point, that role modeling, that being the example.
Oh, definitely. And we see DCO itself is a platform, as we believe that cooperation is the essence of scalability and acceleration. Why should we reinvent the wheel?
Yes.
If there is a competitive advantage in one country, let's share it with the other countries and vice versa. A competitive advantage could be a solution for another country. And we don't want to neglect the fact that we need to incorporate the private sector and the innovators in the discussion. So we need to bridge that communication gap between the public sector and private sector.
So on that, a final thought from you both, because Christoph, as Deemah says, there's an immense opportunity in all sectors, but let's think about the private sector for impact. When it comes to your clients, how are you making sure that they and you don't miss that opportunity?
Well, what I find important in any big change process in corporations is that you set clear targets and you measure progress. That is adoption targets, that's operational outcomes, like, for example, in a call center, the efficiency of the call center people or the coding of your IT department. But it is also financial targets. And I think you need to make sure that you have a well thought through set of KPIs and that you manage against those. By the way, if I look at the kingdom here, I mean, one of the things we find in our surveys is that the kingdom is actually quite advanced in many ways. And if you look at this mix between playfulness and then systematic scaling, if you look at the AI Olympiad that happened here in 2024, I think it's a great example. If you look at the 11,000 school teachers that have been brought into AI, I think it's fantastic. You need exactly that.
So this
and
is
then it's the 1 million Saudi initiative. If you take all of that together, I think that's the mix that you need to play.
Right, well, Deemah, we have a new champion here, as if we didn't know it already, in Christoph, in the region. These are practical examples. So let's stick with that challenge, if you like. A practical step, a message for our audience here at the HCI Summit on how we can all move beyond readiness when it comes to our next chapter.
Embrace real collaboration. embrace real collaboration, be open to accepting dialogues and working on creating partnerships, more partnerships with other public sector or other countries, as well as private sector. Open the borders to more cross-border talents to be easily expanded and create the right opportunities and environment for them to collaborate together.
Right, so opening those borders, cross-pollination, talent connecting across the world. Deemah, thank you so much, and Christoph, thank you very much indeed. Deemah, AlYahya, and Christoph Schweizer, everybody. Thank you very much.